Hi, friend. I'm going to continue with a letter that I recently received from a Muslim woman from the Middle East. Here's her point number 3. Prophet Muhammad never captured a slave girl or ever had one. Instead, he was helping his wife in home duties. This is a fabrication, okay? I don't know who's teaching her what, but you can read Al-Tabari, you can read Ibn Ishaq, you can read Ibn Kathir, you can look at Hadith, okay? And they all state that Muhammad had sexual slaves. He had Maria, the Copt, who bore him a son as a slave, bore him a son, who then the boy died in infancy. He was about 2 years old. He also had Rayhana, a Jew from the Banu Qurayza, and she died in his power. She was a sex slave, okay? And he distributed sex slaves. So this statement is simply not true. And that he was helping his wife in home duties is almost laughable. What he did say was that, actually Fatima, his daughter, had slaves, female slaves, but sometimes Fatima would say to the slave, you take the day off and I'll do the cleaning today, okay? And so that's one of the reasons that Fatima is held up as one of the mothers of the faithful, as she's called, because she was kind to her slaves. But she had them, okay? And okay, I continue. Prophet Muhammad's companions were spending their savings on buying slaves to set them free. This is simply not true. Muhammad did have slaves that he chose to free at points. And there were times when, for example, there was one woman who was the daughter of a chief, and they had annihilated the men of the village, most of them. And she was about to become the sexual slave of one of Muhammad's companions, even though she was a princess. She was the daughter of the ruler. She went to Muhammad himself and pled her case. Muhammad said, she said, please help me out. Help me get out of being a slave. And he said, I'll do something better than that. I'll marry you if you want. And she said, okay. She said, then I do. So he took her as his wife under great duress. She's under duress because her whole family, all of her village, they're all about to become slaves. And Aisha, the child bride of Muhammad, said that she did more for her people than any woman that she ever knew of in history, okay? By simply agreeing to be Muhammad's wife under stress, all right? And then every one of the Muslims who had slaves from that village, because they were already distributing the people as slaves, everyone who had slaves heard the word, hey, they're our family now, they're our kindred. He just married the princess. And she was really beautiful. Aisha said she hated her. When she set eyes on her, she hated her because she was so beautiful. And all of the Muslims at that point freed their slaves, and they all became Muslims. They've got a gun to their head, okay? Their biggest, most powerful protectors are dead. They all become Muslims, and they're all set free. I continue. In wars, Prophet Muhammad had strict orders for his army to never cut a tree, never hurt a woman, child, or an old man, never destroy a building, and never kill an animal, and never burn anything. He did give these orders. This is true. The problem is when he needed to break them, he did. At one point, he started to cut down the orchards of Jews that were hiding out, and they said to Muhammad, you've never cut down trees before. Why are you doing this? He just continued to cut down the trees because that was their livelihood. It was fruit-bearing trees, food-bearing trees. On another occasion, his men came and they were attacking at night, and they said, look, we're going to end up killing women and children. And he had forbid, don't kill women, don't kill children. And Muhammad's response, recorded in 3 separate hadith, is, they are of them. They are of the pagans. They are of the infidels. It's okay if you kill women and children in a melee. It's okay. And finally, people started to enslave their enemies when they started to drift away from the real Islam, from Prophet Muhammad's path and Sunnah. It's simply not true. She's trying to say that as the generations went on, that's when Islam really started to have slaves, but not during Prophet Muhammad's life, not during the life of his companions. No, the exact opposite is true. Muhammad is who set up the rules for taking slaves, including sexual slaves. And his immediate companions all practiced sexual slavery. I'll be right back.